Now I'd like to present to you a fantastic friend of the Jackson Center, Mr. Mark Russell.
The Chautauqua poll, as Chautauqua goes, so goes Shrewsbury. I won't mention all the candidates because we have to be out of here by midnight. Now, as we meet in this beautiful place, Chautauqua, on a lovely summer evening, on behalf of the Jackson Center, I want to welcome all of you to the new, improved Chautauqua Amphitheater. The great Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, once said that all politics is local. And what could be more local than what I like to call Amp Gate? Amphitheater Gate. And that is why our beloved President Tom Becker is not here tonight. He's away getting a good price on dynamite. Whichever way it goes, it'll be the biggest bomb in the amphitheater since Wayne Newton.
Oh, God.
Sunday morning services in the amphitheater, the prayer is more fervent than other. They are praying that the roof will not collapse during the service. And so the amphitheater's days may be numbered, which applies to both of us in here. And the lines are drawn. We need a mediator. We need a referee. And there is a rumor, starting by me, that John Kerry is on his way to Chautauqua to act as negotiator. But you know, we Chautauquans are a sentimental people. We are nostalgic. Years from now, people will run into each other and they will ask the question, were you there when the old amp was torn down? Were you there when they brought it to the ground? Replacing it right here, a multiplex theater with reclining seats and a holder for your beer. Just flip a switch and it becomes one giant stage, revolving, state-of-the-art, as old Chautauqua comes of age. And a glass roof, what a view! Wait, I'm not quite through. There's a loading dock for Snoop Dogg and his crew. We can only guess about some future scheme. Perhaps the Hyatt or the Marriott Athenaeum. Cheer up, don't look so dour. Wake up and smell the plastic flower and listen to the digital bell tower. How has politics changed? How has the material changed over the years? And I think the answer, the reason, what it is the issues today are so touchy, they're so volatile and controversial, and they're too hot to handle. I got to handle them. But there's so many of them that I have to combine them to save time. So how do I do that? Bill Cosby and Donald Trump go into a bar? I don't know. And some reporters are in there, and the media is in there, and Donald Trump says that John McCain is not a hero, but that Bill Cosby is. And how many more people can Trump insult? I mean, what's next? Mother Teresa was a slut? All these issues, we're getting cozy now with Cuba. Cuba used to be the site that fostered terrorism. Now Cuba has a new designation, the land where old cars go to die. We're getting cozy now with Iran. We have a deal with Iran now, and it's already working. We've beaten Iran to Pluto. I don't remember NASA coming to Congress asking for money to go to Pluto. I don't remember that. I guess it happened. NASA goes to Congress and we're going to go to Pluto. Congress says, where? It said Pluto. Oh. Well, it cost $700 million. How far away is it? 3 billion miles. Oh, how long will it take to get there? 9.5 years. What do you expect to find? Well, we think it's all ice. Let me get this straight. You're going to spend $700 million, go 3 billion miles, take 9.5 years, and only ice. That's right. They said, well, we're not scientists, but if you thought of going to the North Pole, it's closer, it's cheaper, and you get penguins. Now, when John F. Kennedy announced that we were going to go to the moon, everybody said, yeah, great, we'll go to the moon, right? But I remember 9.5 years ago, George W. Bush saying we're going to go to Pluto. I think he realized that if he was going to make a big message and say we're going to go to Pluto, he might have been ridiculed. But when he said we're going to go to Iraq, Congress said, hey, great. We legalized same-sex marriage, but Ireland beat us to it. Do you ever get the idea there are no straight leprechauns? And then my favorite statement of the Pope, of Pope Francis, you know, but he really said this a couple of months ago. He said, stop breeding like rabbits. And thousands of women in Ireland alone said, now he tells us. All these things, all these issues, touchy. A couple of months ago in Indiana, they asked this question, can a Christian bakery, what? Can a Christian bakery be forced to sell hot cross buns to Jewish lesbians? And these are just some of the issues that we will kick around the next year and a half as we Americans attempt to elect another president. One of these years, we'll get it right. We've yet to come up with another Abraham Lincoln or George Washington. We've had a few Warren G. Hardings and James Buchanan. And I like the dark horses. I really do. They're more interesting people, these dark horses. I mean, they're all going to run out of money by the end of the year, except Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump is good for America. Hear me out. Because when he's that full of himself, he will explode. It'll be an unlimited source of natural gas without fracking. The Republicans owe it to the American people to narrow down the field to two candidates, Donald Trump and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie. We deserve dueling gas bags. But I'm going to take the high road with Mr. Trump. I'm not going to stoop down to his level. I intend to deal with him with sophistication and nuance. Sophistication and nuance. Oh, the Donald is a schmuck. T-R-U-M-P. He's high in the polls, that's just our luck, says the GOP. He drove away the women and the Mexicans too. He'll carry the bigots, well, hoop-de-doo. With the Donald we are stuck, O-S-H-I-T. To the Tea Party crowd, he's all the rage, yearning to be led. That thing on his head he puts in a cage when he goes to bed. Give me a T, give me an R, give me a U-M-P. Who's that guy? John McCain said, who the hell is he? Is he good for comedy? Yes, it's true. Vote for the Donald and the joke's on you. So, I'll name some of these candidates. Now we'll run down the list. We start with a man named Tim Carson. Ever heard of him? Well, he's a candidate named Tim Carr. He's a brain surgeon. That means he's smart, right? I thought so. Until a few months ago, he said that when heterosexuals come out of prison, they are automatically homosexual. Which proves you don't have to be a brain surgeon to be a brain surgeon. Next candidate, Lincoln Chafee. Ever heard of him? Lincoln Chafee, former senator from Maine. Noble name, isn't it? Lincoln Chafee? Coolidge Chafee would be more important. He wants to adopt the metric system, but don't worry about it. He doesn't have a half a kilogram of a chance. Others a little more familiar to you, there is Rand Paul, senator from Kentucky. He's the son of Ron Paul, perhaps the most famous libertarian. I like libertarians. They're against gun control and in favor of legalized drugs, which is why I would never go hunting with a libertarian. Rand Paul keeps changing his opinions on various issues. He was against vaccinations for measles before he was for them, which is weird because he's an ophthalmologist whose vision is unclear. And then there is Marco Rubio, senator from Florida. The Republicans threw him under the bus last year when he came out in favor of immigration reform. The man is a proud son of Cuban immigrants. But they said to him last year, Marco, we give you the nomination, but we're going to have to deport your parents. And then we have Texas Senator Ted Cruz, the dark horse of the apocalypse, you know? I saw him the other day on Capitol Hill walking his pet werewolf. I wrote a campaign song for him. There's a fellow rose in Texas. Y'all know his name, Ted Cruz. He arrived in Washington with one goal, making news. With a rookie filibuster, he became the freshman clown. And for an encore, he shut the government down. His friends all say he's very smart, and I believe it's true. They say he memorized the Constitution when he was only 2. But his impersonation may not be what it meant. When you're born in Canada, you can't be president. Oh, Canada, you can't be president. Who else? Come on, America, wake up. Smell like coffee in the cup. There's a brand new name who just arrived in town. We should throw out at last those tired retreads of the past. Here's a name you may not know, so write it down. It's Bush, our man. Jeb Bush will take command. Once he learns the ropes, and I insist he cannot miss. Here's one reason why we should give the boy a try. He speaks Spanish, couldn't hurt, trust me on this. His humble roots are there to see. It's a simple dynasty. 2 presidents and 1 senator are on his family tree. Throw out the Cruzes and the Pauls and the former Huckabee Bees. It takes a prince to beat Queen Hillary. Here's Bush, why wait for 24 dumb debates? It's time the GOP had a grown-up candidate. Call him a rhino if you do. We'll sick his mom on you. Vote for Jeb, the smarter brother, before it is too late. Rhino. R-I-N-O. Republican in name only. Moderate. Republicans who eat with a knife and fork and whose knuckles do not drag on the ground. And if you don't believe a man can succeed his own brother as president, I give you Cuba. Now, for the sake of argument, let's suppose that the general election next year is between Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. Now, this is what it will mean. Now, follow me on this. Hillary is married to Bill, who defeated her opponent's father, George H.W. Bush. She will be running against the brother of George W. Bush, who beat her husband's vice president, Al Gore, in a divisive election with a divided vote in the state of Florida, whose governor was her opponent, Jeb Bush. And they say Europeans are incestuous. Now, the situation at the end of last year, at the end of 2014, was as follows. Stock market up, unemployment down, gas prices down, Obama's approval rating down. It was said that if things continue to improve, we may have to impeach Obama. Gas prices are down, ain't that great? North Dakota is now the new Kuwait. Global warming deniers cry unfair. Climate change is caused by Obamacare. They say Obamacare will soon be through. Repealing it is overdue. Americans, we promise you, we'll replace it with, we'll get back to you. Affordable Care Act of 2,000 pages long. Republican alternative 5 words long. Try not to get sick. Medicare, who needs it? You get a voucher, and you take that voucher, and you rub it on where it hurts. The times are a waste into the future we are heading. You can burn a rebel flag at a legal gay wedding. The flags are coming down in the land of cotton, where old times there are best forgotten. Southern politicians caving by the score said we just got the memo, we lost the Civil War. From Tennessee to Mississippi, their compassion was profound. They all read the polls, said, oh hell, take the sucker down. The Clinton Foundation, that's the new World Bank. Hillary and Bill have lots of folks to thank. If they make it to the White House, it will be said, Lincoln bedroom's gonna need a bigger bed. That's the way they answer the phone over there. Good morning, Clinton Foundation. What's in your wallet? Hillary lost in 2008. As the records show, first to Obama, then who's next? Bernie Sanders, 2 socialists in a row. By the way, did you know that Steven Spielberg wrote a movie about Hillary Clinton? What would it be called? Steven Spielberg writing a movie about Hillary Clinton? Saving Private Emails. Oh, where have those messages gone? Oh, where can they be? They were erased from her server at home. The emails of Hillary. She testifies she deleted them all, like the burning of tapes, and what's worse, for convenience sake, oh give me a break, 2 phones would not fit in her purse. There's always something with Hillary. Benghazi or emails unseen. Here's a bumper sticker for her. Claire Underwood 2016. President Richard Nixon had a secretary named Rosemary Woods. She was the one who erased 18.5 minutes of the incriminating White House tapes. At the time, Art Buchwald said that if Rosemary Woods had been Moses, we only would have had 3 commandments. When the German rocket scientist Werner von Braun wrote his memoir, he titled it, I Aim for the Stars. Mort Saul said that he should have called it, I Aim for the Stars, but I Hit London. Will Rogers, of course, said that if George Washington came back to this country, he would sue us for calling him the father of it. And of course, Will Rogers' most famous statement, I never met a man I didn't like. Of course, he never met Donald Trump. Mark Twain worked in Buffalo for a while. He worked at the old Buffalo Express, and this is a true story. The city fathers came to him one time and said, could you help us out? We're trying to build up tourism in western New York. Mark Twain says, well, I'll tell you what, I'm writing a satire on the Bible. He said, give me $1,000 and I'll place the Garden of Eden in Niagara Falls. Now, about that satire of the Bible, it was so shocking, and the publishers were so afraid of it, they said, no, you can't. They decided we won't publish this until 50 years after Mark Twain died. And a letter from the earth, some of you have read it, And the thing that got me about it, something I never thought about, I don't know about you, but was that he dealt with the incredible sanitation problem on Noah's Ark. Well, dwell on that, but not too heavily. So, I guess Mark Twain's most famous statement was, suppose you're in Congress, suppose you're an idiot, but I repeat myself. Mark Twain, Will Rogers, I mean, they didn't have to deal with some of these issues we're talking about today, these taboos. They they existed, but nobody talked about them. But same-sex marriage and abortion. And like a couple of years ago, there was a state senator in Texas. He happened to be an OBGYN. And he said that a 20-week-old fetus, at 20 weeks, can, quote, fondle itself and feel pleasure, unquote. Now, as I recall, in my case, it was more like 15 weeks. So a few weeks ago, I'm walking around Washington, and I strolled by the Supreme Court. No, big demonstration going on in front of the court. Because inside they were hearing oral arguments on the very controversial subject of same-sex marriage. And we didn't know which way the court was going to rule at the time. We knew, obviously, that Justices Scalia and Clarence Thomas would be against it. So their relationship would remain platonic. So there was a woman carrying a sign, and she shows up at these things, and kind of a funny sign. It was all over the media, and it said, gays have every right to be just as miserable as I make my husband. I would have carried a sign that said, marriage between a man and a woman is a sacred doctrine prescribed in the Bible, if you don't count the concubines in the Old Testament. So a guy says to me, don't you know that homosexuality is an abomination? It's in the Bible. I said, I know that. It's in the book of Leviticus. It follows the verse that says it's an abomination to touch the skin of a dead pig. The dead pig skin, which puts football in a whole new light. You want proof that God has a sense of humor, my friend? You read your Bible in the book of Exodus. Thou shalt not cook a young goat in its own mother's milk. I fully agree. I don't like my young goat cooked that way. I like it grill, a little olive oil and lemon, parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Deuteronomy, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's donkey. It's in there. Chapter 5, verse 21, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's donkey. Well, these days, outside of the Ozarks, you don't see much of that sort of thing anymore. Again, Deuteronomy. Now, there are several translations of this. If two men are fighting, and the wife of one man intervenes to help her husband by grabbing the testicles of the other man, her hand should be cut off. Wow. Believe it or not, I once saw a fight exactly like that in a biker bar in Texas. Only the woman was not punished. In fact, she left the bar with the other man. Religion, I love it. A few years ago, Allie and I were in the town of Salem, Massachusetts, on Halloween. Now, Salem and Halloween is like being in New Orleans for Mardi Gras. That means they pull out all the stops. And in Salem, it's all about Salem witches and witchcraft and ghosts and goblins. And in the middle of town was this church. And they hastily put out a disclaiming sign in front of the church. They said, we do not go along with any of this activity in Salem today. The supernatural, the occult, the paranormal. We don't condone any of that here at the Church of the Immaculate Conception. New Testament is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter heaven. You get the idea the only ones in heaven are camels and poor people? Look at all of the questions raised by religion. If you sell your soul to the devil, do you need a receipt for tax purposes? What is the difference between heaven and hell? Location, location, location. If you give up sex for Lent, are you looking toward Easter for all the wrong reasons? And so these social experiments have been evolving slowly, very, very slowly over the years. They did away with don't ask, don't tell in the military. Seemed to be working all right. Gays openly in the military. A couple of small changes. Every morning at Reveille, the buglers played Broadway show tunes. New York was one of the first states to legalize same-sex marriage, which paved the way for Donald Trump to be engaged to himself. You ever been driving out on the highway and see these the signs out on the highway? You've seen them. They say, adopt a highway. You've seen them. Adopt a highway. If a gay couple adopts a highway, will the highway grow up to be straight? Falling in love with you. That's your part, all right? You ready? Here we go. You and I have a different view, but I can't help falling in love with you. My state is red, and yours is blue. Everyone, but I can't help falling in love with you. You belong in the zoo. I can't help falling in love with you. Turn it around. I am liberal. You belong in a bigger zoo. And I can't help falling in love with you. I'm running out of rhymes. I am an American. You were born in Peru. Here tonight, our good friend Judge Sal Martocci. Over the years, I've compared notes with men of my generation, and I say, yeah, we sure loved her. Well, she's no longer with us, but I wrote this song when she passed away, and it's called Middle-Aged American Male's Unabashed Torch Song. Oh, she never calls and she never writes, she never thinks of me. But her picture's been hanging upon my wall for a quarter of a century. Since she gave her hand to someone else, that she loved me not was plain. And since that day I have not known a moment without pain. And I will wait for you, Grace Kelly. Oh, you don't know that I exist. And with your prince there in your palace, you'll never know what you have missed. When I was a lad of 23, my dreams were all of Grace and me. And of the day I'd pack up and go when she sent for me in Monaco. Perhaps someday she'll come to know the truth, and then at last they'll realize that those years with him were years of a wasted past. And I will wait for you, Grace Kelly. You don't know that I exist. And with your prince there in your palace, you'll never know what you have missed. My hope through all these years has been that she face reality and gladly give her kingdom up for just 1 hour with me. We settle down in a little place. She'd be known as the former Princess Grace. She'd forget that place called Monaco in our trailer park in Buffalo. I will wait for you, Grace Kelly. Till this prolonged anxiety. When will you ever make your mind up? Is it Rainier or is it me? Go invite you all ladies and gentlemen, to Washington, D.C. Come to the nation's capital, visit your money. And I suggest you go to the Capitol building at night. I have lived there all my life, and I never fail to be inspired to go to the Capitol building at night where the light is on in the dome. Look at that. What a sight that is on top of the dome. The Statue of Freedom. She's standing up there resolute. And yes, it is a she. And she's standing up there with a steel helmet and a sword and a shield. Queen of all, she surveys down below. Look at her. Look at her. Look at her. Oh, my God. It's Hillary. And then you go across the street to the Supreme Court building. And there's that symbol of freedom, Lady Justice, with her scale and her what did you have? What is that? Blindfold. Thank you. Her blindfold. Thank you, anonymous member of the audience. Her blindfold and her scale. Why is she so she can't see how much she weighs? All right, so. And I'm thinking of Oliver Wendell Holmes, one of the great justices of the court. And Oliver Wendell Holmes, who in fact said that if he had the secret, the formula, to do away with all of the misery of the world, he would not share it with anyone, including members of his own family, because he believed that everyone should have some misery in their lives. And I thought about that. And my thought is this: piss on Oliver Wendell Holmes. Ladies and gentlemen, I've traveled all over the world. I try to visit as many foreign countries as I can for one reason and one reason only: to better understand my own country. For example, I go to Ireland to better understand Irish Americans. I go to Italy to better understand Italian Americans. Israel, understand Jewish Americans. I go to Buffalo to understand Polish Americans. I go to Chautauqua to understand liberal Methodists. I firmly believe that all of the trouble in the world today stems from the fact that we do not know enough about each other's culture. A few years ago, Ellie and I were in the beautiful city of Kyoto, Japan. And we were on a walking tour of the beautiful Buddhist shrines. And Kyoto is the scene of some of the most beautiful women in the world, the geishas, regally adorned in their silk kimono. I drew my guide aside. I said, I have a question for you. Are these geishas prostitutes? And he said, cannot rule out. And so will the amphitheater be taken away from us? Cannot rule out. Thank you very much.